as time flies by, you'll open up your eyes wide. You feel it's gonna go your way. Hey, hey, it's a brand new day. Hey, 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 it's a brand new day. Hey, hey, it's a brand new day. Hey, 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 it's a brand new day. Halfway.
Free taxi 4 times a month and 25% discount on your car insurance if you're the Zero Hero.
Yeah, I'm here in Marbella, but it says here I'm in La Canada.
If you haven't mastered the lingo, don't worry. Linea Directa has a free GPS geolocator service that will come and find you.
Hey, hey.
A big welcome back to Charmaine Arbwin, our leader. The British consul is joining us once again at Marbella now to go over a little bit of Brexit. There's not much, I'm sure, we'll be able to know at the moment, and a few other matters that are obviously very important for our local communities. Charmaine, welcome back. I know you're so busy. It's like very blessed that you've come all the way down to Marbella.
It's always a pleasure to be here, Nicole. Always.
You've been just mentioning that the next couple of weeks for you are going to be like, you've got movie, BAFTAs coming up, you've got, imagine with Brexit and everything, life is intense?
Yeah, there's quite a lot that's happening. So just kind of on the Brexit front, I'll just touch on that first because there's very little to kind of report as change. So everybody will have been watching, everybody will have seen the same things that I've seen, where the government's been doing this no-deal scenario planning over the summer. And I guess my one piece of advice that I would want to give to people is just because the government's planning for that eventuality doesn't mean to say that that's what they're expecting. So they're still hoping that we're going to reach an agreement. There's a Council of Europe meeting on the I'm trying to think, is it the 18th of this month, 18th of October? We're still hoping that we're going to come to an agreement then. And then there's an extraordinary meeting that's been put in the diary for November. So we're still hoping that before Christmas we will reach some sort of agreement. I know that's not really helpful to people whenever they're sort of thinking, well, what's it going to mean for me? And it's getting closer and it's getting closer. The advice that I can give to people is please make sure that you're registered. When I say registered, I mean 3 things really. That you're registered, first of all, with the Policía Nacional or with Extranjería. Most people will either have had an A4 green piece of paper that recognises you as an EU citizen. So make sure that you're registered there. Make sure that you're registered in your town hall on the Padrón. That will also be, that's one of the ways in which your town hall gets money. So it's really important that if you're living somewhere, you register there. And the third thing is register to vote. Sometimes that registering to vote happens at the same time as you're registering on the Padrón, but don't take it for granted. It's a separate piece of paper. So make sure that when you go to register on the Padrón, you are also registering to vote.
I have to laugh because I say this to people all the time, but last week I accompanied 2 people to the town hall and they registered on the Padrón, and when we left it's like, I didn't ask for the paper to vote. And there's me saying it. But when you're in it and you're doing the paperwork, you get kind of like sidetracked, carried away. It's an easy process, but as I say, you're right there, it's not automatic. You need to answer, and it's worth it. You get a chance to vote in the local elections. Have your say.
I mean, some town halls automatically give you the paper, but a lot of town halls forget or don't do it, and it's worth your while doing it because if you live here, it's your opportunity to have your say about the services that are available in your town. And next year, I think it's May, we have municipal elections. You need to be on that register before December or by December, so please If you're not sure, lots of people, whenever we do external events, that say, how do I know whether I'm registered? The easiest thing is to just go along and ask. Yeah?
So if you're not sure if you're on the town padron, go and check.
Yeah.
If you're not sure you're registered to vote, go and check. And if you're not sure you're registered with Extranjería, it's very important to check.
It is. And the reason why Extranjería is really important is because people will have realised that there's going to be a before and there's going to be an after Brexit. And actually, your entitlement to services and your entitlement to be here and your entitlement to healthcare and to all sorts of other things will be wrapped up with when are you first registered as being resident in Spain. And I know that for lots of people we haven't had to do that because we're European, so we can come and go as we please. But with Brexit, all of that changes and there will be a different set of rules. I don't know what that set of rules are as yet because the Spanish have not confirmed that, and they've not confirmed it because we haven't reached an agreement yet. But the one thing that everybody is in agreement about is that if you are registered as resident, legally resident, before the Brexit cut-off date, then you are more likely to have access to the same services and the same privileges. If you're here, please go do it. Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, obviously this must be a two-way street. There are loads of Spaniards in England.
Of course.
So obviously it's in Spain's equal interest to watch over their foreign residents as it is for us.
Yeah, and I mean, it's pretty much agreed that whatever the arrangements are after Brexit, they'll be kind of reciprocal arrangements. So if we do this, then the rest of Europe are likely to do that. If Europe do that, then we're likely to do that. And the UK has already outlined what its registration system is going to be. I think it's called settled status. And basically anybody that's legally in the UK now and is registered as being in the UK, even though it might take it will take 5 years for them to have full settled status, they're on the road to it, and in the run up to that 5 years it really doesn't matter, they're going to be able to stay. We're kind of assuming it will be exactly the same in Spain, but that's a bit of an assumption, and what I would say to people is don't wait until the last minute. Don't wait sort of thinking, oh, I'd like to wait and see. I know lots of people sort of say that they have concerns about, oh, but am I going to be tax resident? Am I going to, at the end of the day, I can't advise you on that. But what I can advise you is that you are going to be putting yourself in a more precarious situation if you don't register.
And the thing is, you can always change your mind.
You can.
You don't have to, just because you said, I'm
yeah.
going to this, if you change your mind and with the situation looks different, and you think, I'm going to go back to the UK or go somewhere else,
absolutely.
It's not life binding.
Absolutely.
It's just,
I mean, you're just securing yourself for now, which is my best advice to people.
Well, good advice.
Yeah.
I know that it's strange, I think, as the general public. I mean, you live this, but for the general public to see such uncertainty, bickering, not being able to get it together when there are things that are basically very black and white. They're ABC, we need 1, 2, 3, and...
I mean, we've had 2 years of this, and I know that a lot of progress was made in the very early stages around citizens' rights, and we're very hopeful that those agreements will be respected. But my advice to people is if you want to follow very closely what's happening, go to gov.uk. You can register for daily updates. You might not want daily updates. You might find that that's too much. But you can register for updates. You can decide what area of Brexit you're particularly interested in, and you will get that information that tells you what's happening. So you can do that. You can follow us on Brits in Spain, which is the embassy's website, Facebook page, sorry. You can go onto the embassy's website. There are lots of ways. And I mean, I suppose the other thing that I would say to people that's worth their while remembering is that there are what we're calling citizens platforms. So that's groups who are dedicated basically to trying to make sure that British nationals are aware of the right information in relation to Brexit. Along the Costa del Sol, the most obvious one is Brexpats. And I would suggest that, you can look at their website as well, and they kind of have things like the most frequently asked questions. They have their own legal advisors as well. But the horse's mouth is gov.uk.
I would say that is highly recommendable because unfortunately we have a lot of groups here, and we have a lot of people in the know. But I think the only know that we can guarantee is the one that's coming, as you say, from the horse's mouth, goes straight to the government page.
Exactly. And I mean, things that we have that are organised later on this week, We have one of the Ministers for Europe will be visiting Spain, be visiting Madrid, and a number of those citizens platforms are going to be meeting with him to sort of raise with him some of the issues that we have around voting rights, around healthcare, around pensions, all of those top issues that everybody's talked about if you're living in Spain as a British national and you're concerned about what's going to happen after Brexit. So that would be, I mean, maybe I can come back in a couple of weeks' time and sort of feedback.
Maybe. I don't know. Let me think about that. I think we'll have to say yes on that one.
Feedback on what happens with that. But it might be worth our while just waiting to see what happens with the Council of Europe meeting as well, because hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll have some good news coming out of that.
I mean, things have to progress. March is very, very close.
Well, March is close, but we have to work backwards from that, because really December is kind of getting to being our cut-off point, because if you think of all the changes that have to happen, and once we have an agreement, that agreement has to be signed off by the British Parliament and by the European Parliament as well. So we have to allow time for the passage of those bills. And if we've not agreed by the end of December, it becomes very difficult. So I would hope that next time I come,
there's a lot more.
It'll be much clearer.
It'll
be much clearer.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
There are people, Charmaine, who aren't contemplating leaving Spain at all for any reason, that they know this is their home, they've got nowhere to go back to. But that also includes a lot of people who are maybe living alone, that they haven't got family, there's nowhere to go, and that also is quite a worry, isn't it, for the government to have these people floating around that don't really have anywhere to touch base with.
It's a really difficult one, Nicole, because obviously people make their own life choices, and most people don't ask the government, is it okay for me to go and live in Spain? You make your own choices and you do that. But having said that, as a consulate, one of the things that we're incredibly aware of is the fact that you might have people who, this is a bit of a stereotype, but it works for the purposes of illustration. So we quite often have people who've taken early retirement. They were maybe in their mid-50s and they bought a home. And of course we know, buying anything with land just sends us crazy because there's so little land available in the UK, that we kind of think it's amazing that you're able to buy a finca in the middle of nowhere. So people tend to have bought things at a time when they were still fit and they were still able, and we don't think ahead to what do we need to, what's our situation going to be in 30 years' time. And of course it's perfectly reasonable for people to live into their mid-80s, without a problem. But quite often around about that time, one or other of the partners might die or become ill, and you're a little bit more isolated, and we're not great at learning the language, we're not very well integrated into our Spanish communities. And it's fascinating. I mean, I say that by way of the BBC today have released, they did this survey of, I think it was about 55,000 people, just talking to them about loneliness. And it's absolutely amazing how many people sort of respond to saying, yes, they are lonely. And you know what was really interesting? Our assumption is that it's the person that I've described, it's an older person whose partner's died or whatever. And actually it's young people. They say that young people sort of under 25 is quite a big group of people that they weren't expecting, who said that they were, incredibly lonely.
I think that unfortunately this social media that they've grown up in has actually isolated them into worlds that when they want to get in the real world, they realise they don't have 3,000 friends like on Facebook. It's not a reality.
So it's quite interesting because they point to social media as being one of the causes. That people spend a lot of time on social media, and therefore that kind of detaches them from the real world, if you like. But I think the other thing about social media is that, you've got children, I've got children. How many times do you say, they're always uploading photos of what a great time they're having. But of course those photos are edited. So, it wasn't always the first selfie. It's probably the 10th one that they got that made them look the best that they could possibly look. And of course, what that does to a lot of people is it makes people think, my God, everybody else is having a great time, everybody else looks wonderful,
Right, exactly.
their lives are so
Envying
exciting.
something that doesn't even exist.
And that makes people more depressed. And it makes people feel more lonely as well. You know, wow, all of these other people, they have these really exciting lives. And look at me, you know, I just have a normal life. You know?
Yeah.
Anyway, sort of by way of that, it makes, I wanted to flag up, I know I've talked about it before, but the Support in Spain website, supportinspain.info. Yeah. And that's a great site for finding out all sorts of information. But it's also good if you're looking for clubs and societies that are around that you might want to get involved with. So.
And that is a big help. Get into the real world, meet real people who look like real people.
Yeah.
And as I say, with those selfie lights and the this and the other, get into a little bit of touch of reality. Thank you so much for the Brexit update.
You're welcome.
And never need to be lonely. We're in Marbella now.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Shamrain.
You're more than welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you for joining us for another Marbella Now. I've just changed my doggy darling for my granddaughter darling. This is my little baby Lake Maze's first time on telly. I'm sure first of many. A big thank you to everyone for joining us for this week's programme, to all our guests, to our leader, the British consul, my guru, Surianne, and to all of you. You can watch all the recordings of our show from our website, MarbellaNowTV.com, or from RTVMarbella.tv. Take care of yourselves, please. Be nice to each other, and we'll be back next week for another show. Hasta luego! Bye. Bye.